Buy now, pay later plans will likely boom this holiday season, and credit experts are ringing alarm bells. I'm Jeff Colvin of Fortune magazine with the Fortune Business Update. Today's buy now, pay later loans typically start with a retailer asking for a down payment at the time of purchase, along with an agreement to make 4 to 6 payments at 2-week intervals. Retailers like the loans because customers on average buy more when a buy now, pay later loan is available. Consumers like them because the interest rate is often low or even zero, and these loans are not reported to the 3 main credit bureaus, so they don't affect a buyer's credit score. The danger is that these loans are so easy to get, especially if a consumer uses several different lenders. Economists will be watching closely. A high-spending holiday season may signal a booming economy, but not if consumers have gone too deeply into debt. I'm Jeff Colvin.
Tonight, we'll see partly cloudy skies and a low of 25, sunny tomorrow and a high of 48. Monday night, clear skies and a low of 27, then sunny into Tuesday and a high of 56. I'm meteorologist Patrick McMillan on News Radio WGNS. Right now, it's 37.
Portions of our programming have been pre-recorded. The Good Neighbor Network, WGNS, Murfreesboro, Smyrna. Flagship station for MTSU Sports. News Radio WGNS, Murfreesboro. The views and opinions on this show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of WGNS, its management, other hosts, or advertisers.
Hello, everybody. Ed Raymer, and they are our opinions. Yes, they are. And Ed Raymer with the Edwin Lee Raymer Show is with you here on another Sunday night here. And Christmas is right upon us. And we've got a great guest for us tonight. We're going to be talking about something that about 87% of the people in this country want, not only to talk about it, they want to do something about this. It's called term limits on all these politicians, state level, federal level, local level, whole 9 yards. And there's a fella here that I've just been speaking with and got to know over the last week or so. I got him on the phone. And he agreed to be down here. He flew in this morning from Boston. You're out of Vermont. Mm-hmm. Aaron Duquette. Aaron, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, Ed.
I'm glad you're here, and you're no stranger to WGNS. You've been here with Mike Sparks before.
That's right.
And I told Mike you would be on, so hopefully we'll be hearing from him. Aaron, what brought you into this? You said you got here by accident, I believe, pretty much.
Well, in terms of working with U.S. term limits, yeah, kind of fell into it. But those are some of the most adventurous things that you get involved in, right? Right. The ones you didn't plan.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think my interest really in politics really grew out of being a teacher. I lived in Colorado for about 9 years.
You've lived all over.
I'm a bit of an American mutt, and I don't know where I'm from really anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was a lot of fights there in terms of doing what's best for the kids and just
right.
Just school board politics and that kind of stuff. And it drew out of me some desire to do what was right for the kids. And sometimes that mean taking action. And so that kind of got me thinking about the broader culture and about the nation and what's going on, and then eventually the term limits. That this is one of the most commonsensical reforms we could do to treat some of the issues we're seeing out of Washington, D.C.
Now, am I right in my numbers? It's like 87% of the people want something done about it. They have an interest in it.
That's right, yeah.
They're not saying, Aaron, go away. You're wasting your time. They want something done about this.
Yes. Yeah. It's the highest polling issue. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find an issue that there's that much consensus on. Traditionally, in the last 10 or so years, the polling nationally is consistently right around 80 to 82, 83%. This year, it's getting worse and worse, and it's very clear that it's getting worse. And that most recent poll is all-time high. 87% Pew did a poll and found that.
87%.
So that doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever it is.
That's the ironic part about it. Everybody said we are all pretty well fed up with this bunch.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Tomboulides, who's out of Melbourne, Florida. He's one of your...
He's my boss.
Oh, is he your boss? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know him.
So we'll have to say nice things about him then. But, no, seriously, I did not know him when Nick, I got to meet him years ago, and me and Mike, and I think Rob Mitchell, good friend of ours. Rob is our property assessor here in Rutherford County. And they said, look, this guy, Nick Tomalides, we're having a meeting. Marty Luffman, one of our local State Farm agents, he's out of Smyrna.
Yep.
Said he's going to be me. It was a Monday or Tuesday night. He said, you need to go down and talk to this guy. I said, I'll go down here. What's he got to say? If it's on term limits, sure. And that's where we got to hear from him, and that's how this whole thing started. And that was several years ago. And later I had him on, of course, by phone, because he was in Melbourne, Florida, and he wasn't out on the road like you are tonight. And again, thank you for doing this. Thank you. I appreciate it very much to be here personally. But that's how we got started on this thing. And everybody, I mean, we had Republicans, Democrats, we had probably some libertarians in there. I mean, people are saying, hey, enough is enough, And I did not know, so I did some research. And I was in my late 50s at that time. And I said, I wonder how long some of these guys have been in office.
Right.
And 2 or 3 had been there before me and my wife were born. I mean, how much legislation do you have to pass? I mean, and I think he was in the House of Representatives. Now, I mean, you can't get your points across in 55 plus years, and I don't know, that is, I think it is one of the places where, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think it is one place where our forefathers may have really made a mistake, but things were different in their time. And they had farms, and they had, well, honestly, they had slaves, and they had, after 4 years or 8 years, 5 years, whatever, hey, I got to get back to work. I got a farm to take care of.
Yeah, you make that point about the Founding Fathers.
Right.
They did a pretty good job with our Constitution, I have to say.
Very well.
But what? Probably one of the best things that they did, though, is they had the humility to admit that what they were coming up with in this document would need to be amended on occasion to remedy situations that arise that they didn't foresee, or that they maybe should have taken care of beforehand.
Exactly.
And this discussion about term limits, they called it rotation of office back then, and actually the Articles of Confederation had rotation of office in there, and they debated it 6 different times in the Constitutional Convention. And they basically decided, well, it's not really going to be so much needed.
Yeah,
well,
right.
that proved to be wrong. But if you looked at what the capital that they were forming was going to look like then versus what it is now, it's a whole different deal. It resembled much more like an actual swamp rather than a metaphorical swamp that we have today. Now it's a hot tub. So yeah. So they had the wisdom to say, what, on occasion we're going to have to fix some things. The country's going to have to come together on issues that have broad consensus of support. The people really understand that this needs to be fixed. And term limits is exactly one of those issues.
Well, and my father always said that too. My mother and father both. Medicare, for example, just as a topic, it needs to be tweaked from time to time. Social Security as well. It needs to be looked at. You don't just, okay, legislation passed, that's it. We'll never have to deal with that again. That's not the way it works. And you're on a topic here, man, I bet you could talk to me all day long about this, some of the people you've seen, So, where do you go from here? You're here now. You got a bunch of appointments. You're going to meet with some of our state legislatures down in Nashville?
Yeah, early this week, I'm going to be just spending some time at the Capitol, popping in and saying hi to some of the state senators. We have legislation that we can talk about that actually would allow the states to step in and actually force this issue. And so we actually got that passed through the House earlier this year, overwhelmingly. And so we're looking for the Senate to follow suit. And that
now the House here, state
Tennessee
House.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so, but after that, a little later in the week, actually, there's a group of volunteers out in the Knoxville area. We're going to get together at a No Charlie's and just going to have, break bread together. And actually, we're going to handwrite some letters to their state senators. They're going to sit down together and come up with good ideas and just, share why they want to see this resolution passed and then drop that in the mail to them. So that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you've got a full plate. You'll be heading back home probably Thursday, Friday, hopefully.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, I'll actually be back next week. And next week, too. I'll be flying back. Yeah. We're going to be on News Channel 5, actually.
Really?
Myself and our Senate sponsor is Richard Briggs.
Okay.
We're going to be on TV talking about the same issues, so that is good. Fun. Yeah.
Good. I'm telling you. I want to tell you about a sponsor of ours. We're going to get this thing kicked off here in just a minute. A sponsor that we have here, Keep It Running, Heating and Air, okay? And if you're family and you're looking for a local family-owned heating and cooling company, I want to introduce you to Joe at Keep It Running Heating and Cooling Company. He's got over 12 years experience in this field, and he and his company, Keep It Running, are located right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. They're fully licensed, insured, bonded, and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with all your heating and cooling needs. And you're going to be needing that heat now because I noticed it was already down to 38 earlier when I got here this evening. So give Joe a call. Don't be shy about it. And like I said, he's a local boy right here in town. 615-962-2397. That's Joe at 615-962-2397. Or you can find them at keepitrunningheatingandcooling.com, and you can catch them on Facebook as well. Jackson, if we could, we're going to kick this thing off. But for right now, my name is Edwin Lee Raymer, and yes, I am still a private investigator. Welcome aboard.
Run, Rudolph, Santa's gotta make it to town. Santa, make him hurry, tell him he can take the freeway down. Run, Rudolph, reeling like a merry-go-round.
Out on a reindeer, you know you're the mastermind. Run, Rudolph, Santa ain't far behind.
It ain't going to be long.
Oh, run,
That is the great Leonard Skinner. That'll rattle the dust off the rafters for you, that song. Okay, and my name is Ed Raymer, the Edwin Lee Raymer Show, and me and Aaron are here tonight to talk to you about term limits. This show is produced at the studios of WGNS AM 1450, 100.5, 101.9 FM, right here in the heart of the great volunteer state, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Now, you can reach us tonight with your questions, comments, ideas, and thoughts at 615-893-1450. That's 615-893-1450. You can also send a text to that number. Jackson will be glad to write it down or read it for us over the air. For those of you who may be a little bit too shy to come on, I know some of you are because I see you through the week and you compliment us on the show and the broadcast we do, and it's much appreciated. Like I said, Aaron Burkett is here. Durkett, I keep getting your name wrong, Aaron.
That's okay.
Sorry,
I'll get that off. It's Duquette. Yep.
Now, you can watch us also right now at YouTube at at News Radio WGNS. That's News Radio WGNS. We're on YouTube Live right now, and you can look us up there. And all the programs we do, all the programs here on WGNS, all the sporting events, that Brian and John Dinkins do, and all the guys do. They're there. Just look them up. Mine is don't put Edwin. Just look up Edwin Lee Raymer Show, and it'll pop up all the shows we've done. And also you can download the WGNS app and take WGNS with you wherever you go, and listen whenever you wish. Check out Angela Bingham. She's a good gal. She's been here about 5-6 years herself and doing a great job with simplicity. Aaron, you're here with us tonight. How does this process work? It's not just a question of we're going to have term limits, do it. I mean, this is they've made it pretty complicated, I would imagine. I'm just guessing here.
So I'll give you a little prehistory there on term limits. So U.S. term limits has been around since 1992, a long time, trying to get this issue of term limits in place on Congress. And originally what they did in the first half of the 90s is in multiple states worked with ballot initiatives in different states to get basically state laws passed in various states that would term limit their own delegations to Congress. So it would just be Tennessee term limiting their own delegation. You always have representation, but you put a term limit in place. And 23 states put it in place. Right. Okay. And if you think about natural consequence of that would be, you get close to half of the states term limited. they're going to say, hey, we need to pass an amendment because this isn't fair for us, right? And so that would have resulted in basically a constitutional amendment. Well, it was challenged in the Supreme Court, and in 1995 they said it has to be a constitutional amendment. So long story short, it has to be that. There's only 2 ways to get that done. The one way is by asking Congress to propose their own term limits. That's complicated as you can expect that to be.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And actually, we saw proof of that just a couple months ago in Congress. We had our first vote on term limits in about 25 years in the House Judiciary Committee. It failed 19-17. So no big shocker there. But then the other half is that in Article 5, like the founders put in there, that allows for the proposal of amendments by way of the states. And so we have a single topic Article 5 application for term limits on Congress only. And then when we get close to 34 states, Congress is going to be faced with a dilemma.
I knew that 34 was is the magic number.
Yep.
How many do you have so far?
We have six states. And then so Tennessee would be number 7, and we have a whole slate. I think it's going to be a real breakthrough year in 2024 for us.
I'm thinking
we're very close in a number of states, and
yeah.
they're going to be filed in a couple dozen states. I think we're going to really jump forward.
I think you're on something.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this thing has gone just about as far. They've pushed it about as far as it can. I mean, and one thing that got me too was the no limit on the money that can be put in. In other words, an incumbent can raise 7 times more money than if I go out here and challenge them, whatever office they're in, local, state, federal, because they have the name recognition. They're already there. People see them on the news, whatever the case might be. You see a lot of this in Congress now, of people just wanting to be heard, because we've got 24 coming up, and we're going to see more and more and more of this. But they can raise 7 times more. I didn't know this until I got involved with some of the political people that I know that started running. I said, man, you're behind the 8 ball before you ever start.
Right.
And so is it really unlimited money that can be put into these campaigns?
Well, so
or do we don't have to know, we don't get to know where it comes from, right?
Right. I mean, there's obviously a very incredible amount of money that it keeps rising and rising and rising. And part of the problem is that you have such a deadlock in these elections. You don't have real competitive elections, and so it causes the system just to flood more and more money into this. Term limits would actually have a good effect toward campaign finance problems. Now, term limits isn't going to solve it. It's not a magic bullet that solves everything.
Sure.
But actually, I think it would have a positive impact in regard to this dynamic of the influence of money in politics.
Right.
Because when you have guaranteed open seat elections with term limits, you're guaranteed, even if the person's really popular, they're going to be out in so many years. You're going to have open seats like you do if you have a 2-term president. It's slate's clear now. We're going to have a slate from both parties. Right. And we'll have better choices. Well, very often we don't have those choices in the primaries especially. So we really don't have competitive elections. And so this would provide that opportunity for more of a competition for that money to be given to them. And right now, as you look at it, I mean, this statistic doesn't lie. 97% of all super PAC money in Washington, D.C. goes to Republicans? Democrats? No. It's not about party. Incumbents. They go to the incumbents. Only 3% is for the challengers. And if you look at what that even consists in, is typically ideological issues, kind of thing, where it's just very clear. So
legislation.
They want them in there forever.
We're talking about legislation.
That's right.
And greasing those wheels. Okay.
Yes.
Tell you what we're going to do. Aaron DeCat is here with us. He's with Term Limits people. Jackson's going to take us to our first series of breaks. Ed Raymer with the Edwin Lee Raymer Show. Be back with you right after this. Stay with us. Hello, everyone. It's Ed with Private Investigations in Middle Tennessee. If you just need someone checked out on a background check, tag them a run, or if you need someone full-fledged to follow, give us a call. You can reach me at 615-390-7219. That's 615-390-7219. Or check out our website at piofmt.com. That's piofmt.com.
I felt so alone, scared, angry, full of self-pity. I just wanted to die, so I took another drink. Then I heard about AA and went to my first meeting. The people there talked about those same feelings. I was no longer alone. They gave me help to stop drinking and hope to start living. Alcoholics Anonymous, it works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or aa.org.
Hey, this is Ed, everybody. Want to tell you about a sponsor of ours. We've got Complete Yard Care. Their slogan is, we do it all. Low maintenance landscape design, retaining walls, tree removal, stump grinding, lawns cut, mulching, landscaping. Now you can reach them at 615-785-0384. Or you can look them up on the web at CompleteYardCareTN.com. They have a 5-star ranking on Google. That's Complete Yard Care. We do it all. Go to J. Mullins Jewelers and check out their collection of reactor watches. They're located at 352 West Northfield Boulevard right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And also custom-made jewelry. If you want it, they can make it for you. Also gifts for any and all occasions. Weddings, graduations, family reunions, anniversaries, all of it. That's J. Mullins Jewelers, 352 West Northfield Boulevard right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. All right, thank you. Aaron Duquette is here with us. Now, Aaron, let me ask you something. Has it come up, is there a standard, I want to talk with a lot of people, what are the terms that people would suggest that people serve? For example, we have the same thing in our state house here as you have in the federal house. 2-year terms for House representatives, 6 years for senators. What's the consensus there? How's everybody feel about that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we have the two prongs of our approach. One in Congress as a proposal, and then the Article 5 application in the states. The Article 5 application actually doesn't pre-specify exactly a term limit. The purpose of that would be to get together to deliberate exactly this question. So
sure.
So that's not pre-specified there. So the other answer, for the one that we support in Congress, is a really good term limit. A lot of factors came into play in making the judgment call. But that would limit any one person from serving more than 3 terms in the House, so they get 2-year terms, right? So 6 years plus 12 years in the Senate, 2 terms. So you could have an 18-year career. You start in the House, go through, run for Senate. I mean, I don't know, but I've never had an 18-year career.
Okay.
So
No. I'm telling you. And now you say proposed 2 6-year terms.
Yes.
And then 4 2-year terms.
3 2-year
3
terms.
2-year terms.
Yep.
6, so it'll be 18.
Yeah, we run a pledge program. We ask candidates running for office in Congress to sign a pledge to get behind that proposal.
Right.
Because you remember back in the 90s when term limits were all the rage back then, too.
Right, yeah,
And
sure.
the Republican Party ran on the contract with America.
Yeah, they were going to.
And the big plank of that was term limits, right? So how is that going to happen? Well, what they ended up doing is that they had 2 or 3 different proposals on the floor at once, and then everyone gets signed up upon 3 different proposals. Well, you don't have the 2/3 supermajority that you need to pass it, so everyone can go home to their constituents and say, I'm a hero. I voted for term limits, but it didn't get passed because they split it up.
Well, it was
so
kind
we're
of a
avoiding
sham.
that
I mean,
situation.
it's a sham. It's
That's
a sham. They knew it wasn't going to pass. That's the
so we're holding them to one proposal.
Sure. Yeah, that was a sham. Anyway, we have a caller on the line. Caller, go ahead, please.
Mr. Raymer, Jeff, how you doing?
Well, hello, Jeff. How are you?
Pretty good. I just want to say, I've heard, this is what I've heard from people in the state legislature here in Tennessee. They say that they don't need term limits because they're not full-time legislators, they say. We don't need because we're not full-time. We're not like the national people. That's what people have told me. People in the legislature are Nashville.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
I have not. That is the first time I've heard that. That's the first time I've heard that. Have you heard this, Aaron? I guess you've heard them all.
We don't need term limits because we're not full-time. We're part-time people and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them have come back, as you know, that we've got term limits. It's called voting. But that's not.
Well, yeah, that's one of the ones. But one of the ones I've heard them say, they don't talk about. But they just say, "Well, I'm not a full-time legislator, so I don't need term limits. I don't need it." That's what they're when you come back at them with it, they say, "Well, I'm not a full-time legislator. I'm part-time."
Well, I mean, they're not really full-time up in Washington either. Every time I turn around, somebody's on vacation up there. I mean, no, they are. You know, we've got our spring break now. I've never seen a job with so many breaks in it. And this being an election year, ain't nobody going. I would say, by the end of the year, that pretty well is going to be the end of any election. Nothing's going to get passed, is it, Aaron? Is that in your experience? I mean, I'm asking you to get off in the ditch here a little bit.
No, I can address this. So
what I want to ask your caller too, if you do have term limits, have you thought about how many terms they would serve? Like Edwin Lee says, U.S. senators have 6 years, and the Congress has 2. Have you thought about how many terms they would serve?
We were just talking about that. Tell him, Aaron. It was 2 6-year terms for Senate.
We support in the congressional proposal. This is not the state resolution. It would be no more than basically 6 years in the House and 12 years in the Senate.
Oh, that wouldn't be too awful bad for that. But that's what I've heard from the state. They said we're not. So we don't need to have
sure.
So
yeah.
Well, as much as they try to pull up there, as much as bulls they try to pull up there, all the bulls they try to pass, it seems like you're full time to me. Don't you think so?
Well, yeah, you know, they're constantly looking for a better mousetrap up there.
You've heard the latest one when they come back. Brenda Lee that rocked around the Christmas tree was number 1 on the history on a lot of the album charts.
Right, sure.
Well, they want to make that the holiday song of Tennessee.
Oh God, okay, yeah, we've got.
It's just so important. It's so important for the state to have it.
I love Brenda Lee, and it is a great little song. But I mean, I think we have more important. I mean, we've got a state gun. We got the state book. Did they make the Bible a state book or something down here?
They tried to. So that's one thing they did try to. They did try to pass it with the state. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had the state bullet. See what bullets we put in the gun. We only sell one type of bullet. We can't sell any type for AR-15s or anything. But I wouldn't be surprised. But that's one of the things they want to when they come back to the legislation. But that's what they've told me. I had one guy one time tell me, "Well, I'm not a full time, so I don't need term limits. I don't need none." So that's the story. But well, see, I'm like with your caller. I don't think the Congress will ever vote their own term limits in. I don't think they'll ever do that.
I mean, I'm even in favor of grandfather. And you and I, Aaron, talked about this on the phone. I'd take anything right now.
Yeah, that's the advantage of what we're doing here with the states is that the states can put that pressure. You know, we talk about the re-election rate. The re-election rate is consistently election after election in Congress.
Sure,
it's 95% right around there. It was 100% in the Senate last time. Yeah. So it's a bad issue there. Yeah.
Enjoy your show. Have a good Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll be here next week, and this will be. We're going to do our Christmas show, I think, next week. It's what my plan is. So I don't know. But, Aaron, I've never heard that one, that it's not a full-time job, so we don't need term limits.
Yeah, well, I mean, U.S. term limits supports term limits, on everything. Town dog catcher, whatever it be.
Sure.
School board, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a philosophy, and then there's where we put our resources, the most, because the most urgency, practically speaking, and that is undeniably Congress. Right? And there's a good deal of support out there as well for, Supreme Court justices and so forth. But
great day.
We have the heavy hand with term limits on Congress. It's got the bipartisan support, and that's the thing to get taken care of because that's where the highest priority is. So where you do have more turnover in the states more generally than 95%.
That will take care of that would take care of a lot of this court appointment too. That would remedy a lot of what you and I are talking about would remedy a lot of this problem. Yeah. That has evolved, especially over the last 50 years, because it didn't used to be this way, I mean, and also now, of course, with the Trump thing and all this, you won an election, you lost some, okay, well, we'll regroup and try again in 2 years, try again in 4 years, whatever. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's running for office 365 days a year, and I'm sure. Again, the presidential election will have more than $1 billion spent on it. Money's coming from somewhere.
Right.
They're not giving it out of the goodness of their heart.
Right. That's right.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay. Term limits, 2 6-year terms, 3 2-year terms, and that could be for the state as well.
The resolution we have in the states that we work with the state legislators on is to actually put term limits on Congress. So we need their help. They're our only recourse. Like the caller said, it's not likely that Congress is going to propose their own term limits anytime soon. But you can put the pressure on them to actually see the writing on the wall. When you get close to 34 states, they're going to have to be confronted with a dilemma. Do I propose these own term limits on ourselves, or do we sit by and let the states do it to us? And guess what? I mean, you talk about grandfathering themselves in. They might grandfather themselves in, so forth, step away. But the states won't, right? They're going to want those jobs at that point. And that's good and healthy. So this is the only way to put leverage on Congress to either propose it themselves or watch it happen. It's the only way to get it done. So.
Well, and we are looking at, Aaron, and everybody knows this. As I told you, I'm originally a Kentucky boy from Kentucky. Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
He's already froze up a couple of times up there.
Right.
It's getting embarrassing.
Right.
I mean, I feel for those people. I really do. I really do. But I saw, who was the lady? Dianne Feinstein. She had to be prodded before, she's no longer with us, but, and she didn't know to say yay.
Yep.
And her assistant said, just say yes. Yes. Okay. Had to be told what to say.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not good, and these people are making valued decisions on people's lives, and especially this Supreme Court bunch. Lord, and they have woke a sleeping giant there with these women, because these gals are mad.
The career politicians, they set a trap for themselves.
I agree.
People have been noticing in the last year or so, they've been noticing, like, maybe we need age limits and that kind of stuff, because they're like, well, how come the leadership in Congress is all, in their late 70s, 80s, 90, in the case of Dianne Feinstein,
I know.
And how did this come to be? Well, it didn't just happen on its own. It happened because they had been there for a good 40 years, right?
I know, sure.
So it's a matter of, if you had term limits in place, they would have been gone long ago. And it's really about, who controls Congress. It's not just the average rank and file member of Congress.
Right.
Because, we talk about the lack of things happening in Congress. Well, they spend about 50-60% of their time dialing for dollars. They're calling funders. They're raising money for the respective parties. And that's where they spend the bulk of their time, not doing legislation. So they're actually not doing the things that they could be doing because they're caught up in the political process. Well, this liberates them from that much more so, and it enables us to actually have much more competition, not only for the seats, but also within Congress, more competition for leadership positions, that's when the agenda is set, right? And things start moving and shaking. It's when you get a chairmanship, a leadership position, that sort of thing.
Well, I go back to the story that I heard years ago. A new member of Congress had come on, got elected, and I forget which side of the aisle they were on, but had dreams of in House Representatives on federal level in Washington. So, well, look, I'd like to get to, I want to work on this legislation. And they said, no, wait a minute. And apparently they take on, you may know more about this than I do, I'm sure you do. They take the new members of Congress and set them aside and say, and what they told this person, man or woman, I don't know what it was, but your job this first year is to start raising money.
Yep.
So, well, what about my legislation? Forget your legislation. Your job right now is to raise funds.
60 Minutes a few years ago did a piece on this called Dialing for Dollars. And that's exactly what
a
couple congressmen, one of them from each side of the aisle, walked them across the street from the Capitol building. It's hilarious. I mean, in a sad way. They walked across into 2 different buildings, and they go and sit down basically in a cubicle, and they have a list, a donor list, and they're just pounding through those numbers like the telemarketer. Right. And hey, would you donate money to the Republican Democratic Party? Yada, yada, yada. And they have a chart keeping track of how much, what are the greatest fundraisers among them. And guess what? Those people end up being the ones that are in charge. They get the committee assignments, the chairmanship, the leadership positions. It's because of the money that they're bringing in So it's not necessarily their boldness of vision that they're ready to serve the country, that they're going to have good ideas that will actually solve these problems that we've carried around for decades that we could solve but don't. It's really about a self-fueling process of insiders. And so, term limits will shake that whole system down.
Sure. I mean, but that was this person's job. So forget about that. You're running for office. The minute you take your hand off the Bible, I do. Let's go across. Okay, we got to sit down and talk. You've got to raise money.
You're a worker bee.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe that this is what it's really gotten to. I mean, you don't even take a month to, it doesn't sound healthy, really.
It's not. I mean, we think that they go to D.C. to go work in legislation, and they're not spending the bulk of their time doing that. I mean, that's a crazy corrupt system, where and lo and behold, they stay in office. 100% of the U.S. senators that ran for their seats last time kept it. 100%. The only turnover in Congress or in the Senate was retirements. That's it. That is a broken election system. Elections are not sufficient on their own. They turn around, and someone like Mitch McConnell will go and say, very self-satisfied, with self-satisfaction on his face, "Oh, well, just vote me out if you don't like it." He knows. Yeah. Come on now. He knows that he can't. Sure. Right?
Can't be done. Yeah. And that girl the girl that ran against him ran a very respectful campaign. She did a good job.
Right.
But she's just short. Right. Probably $100 million.
Well, look at all the money. Yeah, exactly. Look at the money I threw into that, and she couldn't, break him.
Still, yeah. But, but here's another thing. They say, Aaron, well, look at the experience level. I understand. I know that. Mm-hmm. They put Nancy Pelosi in charge of the House with the Trump deal, when Democrats took control of it. And she was there because she could get things done. She didn't bring a vote to the floor that wasn't going to pass. Mm-hmm. I mean, this thing we've got now with this guy that's in there now, bless their hearts, I don't know. If that's what money and power does to you, I don't know that I want any of it. But I do understand they do have the experience. They do have the knowledge. But we've got to strike a balance here somewhere.
That's correct. And the thing is, people don't, if they repeat that, maybe they do understand that actually, because they're usually the ones we're trying to get term limited. But they'll say, we need experience, or you need to keep that experience there. Well, yeah, you need some experience, but you're going to have that. If you look at more than half of all members of Congress are former state legislators. Sure. They have legislative experience. And so they, to pretend that being a congressman is some sort of really highly esoteric thing to do. So it's like brain surgery or something. Sure. Like, sorry, it's not that complicated.
Right.
And if it is, maybe it should be simplified. But it really is just an escape to answer the question that, really we need to actually have the term put in place here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the running for the office and all that, it becomes it's a way of life for them.
Right.
And that's all they know. And I don't think our forefathers ever thought of it. Like I said, these guys had farms, they had businesses, they had things. Most of them had farms. That's what agriculture was a big thing. Yeah. And yes, many of them they had slaves. I mean, they really did. People don't like to talk about that, but they did. They really did. Right. And after 4 or 5 years, said, hey, I got to get back to my farm. I've got a home and a farm and a family and people to take care of, and crops to raise, and they had to make a living.
Right.
Now some of them made a pretty good living, but nonetheless, they had to be there to keep an eye on things.
It's gotten bad enough. It's not just to look at it from a different angle too. It's not just that the Congress is just full of these like really just over the top evil people or something that want those seats. You got to look at the system too, actually, in human nature.
Sure.
The system, the way it's grown up now with the seniority system and the fundraising equals advancement system that comes along with that. What you have now is a self-protective system where outsiders can't crack it. And
that's exactly right.
If you're a Johnny Smart guy out there, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, that has a really good idea, some really good policy ideas, things that could solve some of the problems that we're facing, and you want to go in, serve for a while, and come back home, you could do that. But the way you look at it now, I actually crunched the numbers of the last Congress, and I wanted to know how long did they serve before they got their first chairmanship, before they started advancing, in other words, toward leadership.
Sure.
Right? It's about 18 years on the whole in the House and 21 years in the Senate. That's before you start not being just the worker bee and being the one that's calling the shots. I mean, good grief. So you got to go spend a career just to start your career there. And so it breeds careerism right from the outset and attracts it. Sure. So in a way, we're attracting the lesser quality candidates, that we could have better quality out there because they don't want to give up their careers. They rather just go to service.
Sure. And we have so many. You do have a lot of lawyers.
Yep,
you have doctors. You do. And a lot of them, they do need to get back to a practice that they may have a very lucrative law practice that they've abandoned, and many of them do. Well, they used to. They don't much anymore. But I want to ask you something. When they get these chairmanships for these committees and all that, how much extra money do they get for those? I've wondered about that.
Like from special interest money and stuff?
Well, I'm talking about is it rigged? Is it set into the system that you'll get instead of a congressman gets $174,000 a year or whatever it is?
Salary.
Do they get an extra kick if they are named a committee chairman or anything like that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I never looked at it that closely. What I do know, there's a common kind of a misconception about that, and I'm not excusing it by any means.
Sure.
But there's a $174,000 salary that they get, and that doesn't go very far in Washington, D.C.
Not very far, right.
But it's not really about the salary. That's not how they're profiting and getting so rich. It's about all the connections that they're making. It's about possible insider trading that they're doing.
Sure.
Right. All those connections, that gives them the wealth that they end up with. And so, as you advance to become like a chairman, your pay may not be much more or more at all. But guess what? Your attractiveness is through the roof.
Sure.
And those lobbyists want to go and take you out for dinner, and they want you to come and go golfing, and they want you to come out to Aspen, Colorado for the weekend.
Right.
They want all those attractive things, and they're going to fawn on you. They're going to laugh at all your jokes. They're going to be very appealing and very seductive, and even well-intending people can fall right into that trap.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. I read in a Reader's Digest article once that a man had got elected from his state for House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. And within like 6 or 8 years, he had gone. This is 30 years ago. Things totally changed by now, but he had so much. He had to pay taxes on stock that he didn't even know he had, because they fixed him up with stock options or something. He said, "No, I don't need any stock. I got my salary," and he was apparently from a wealthy family or something like that, as an attorney or whatever. He had a tax problem, because he had made so much money from these special interests and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, it sounds like it's better than owning a casino in Vegas, man.
Yeah, it's clear. I mean, it's for the ones that last beyond 3 terms, and they just kind of quit because they're frustrated. The ones that actually play the game long term, I mean, they're really benefiting from this personally. And guess what? Like, their approval rating right now is in the toilet. I mean, it's 13%.
Oh yeah, don't talk about the president or vice president.
What other job could you sit and do such a poor job and then just kind of blithely go about your day?
I know.
And no accountability. That we need to have some kind of accountability for these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me. I mean, they have there's no shame. Mm-hmm. They continually are bombarded with all these dinners and all that, and if they do get voted out, they're going to become a lobbyist anyway. I mean, I saw that little Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Cho, whatever, and all I ever saw her do is sit around and grin. She was in Trump's cabinet. I think she sit there. I guess if I had parents that were worth as many millions as her parents were, I'd just sit around and grin too, Hey, Ed, what are you doing? Just grinning. Isn't it a great day? Yeah, yes, it is. Wonderful,
Right.
But I don't know. We're not going to solve it tonight, but I'll tell you what, appreciate what you guys are doing.
That's
really
right.
do.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, it's let me ask you, how can people help you? What can we do?
Yeah, so the resolution, we got passed through the House overwhelmingly earlier this year, and it's a 2-year session in the Nashville legislature, in the Tennessee legislature in Nashville. And we need to get the state Senate to pass it. Senator Briggs from Knoxville is our lead sponsor, great guy, and it's in his committee, the State and Local Government Committee. It's House Joint Resolution 5, so you can call up your state senator. Say, hey, please pass the U.S. term limits resolution for term limits on Congress. I really want to see this happen. And tell them, hey, I'm one of those 87% that want to see term limits on Congress. And I'm feeling very confident we'll get this thing done, and I'm really happy about the progress we're seeing. So
yeah, I think we're looking at a different
step forward
time.
And good win for the people, I think. So.
Right. Mm-hmm. They've, most people, who's that crazy politician? That's that's the air everybody's putting on right now. And I have friends that ask me, hey, what about, and I don't know if you heard about the lady that was running to run for mayor in Williamson County down here, and had bodyguards go with her to the events and everything. They were in some of these real ultra-right, neo-Nazi, whatever they were. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get, she got beat. But the man that beat her was the sitting mayor over there, and they say he's just as fine a fellow as you'd ever want to meet. So luckily he did get reelected. We're talking with Aaron Duquette, and we're talking term limits right here, and we're going to go to our last series of breaks here. Keep It Running Heating and Air. If you're looking for a locally owned heating and cooling company, I want to introduce you to Joe at Keep It Running Heating and Cooling. He's got over 12 years experience in the field. Joe and his company, Keep It Running, they're located right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. They're fully licensed, insured, and bonded, and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help you and your family with all your heating and cooling needs. If you're looking for a family you can trust, a man you can trust, and a company you can trust with your needs, heating and cooling needs, call Joe today, 615-962-2397. That's 615-962-2397. And you can go to their website, Keep It Running, heatingandcooling.com. And, of course, you can catch them on Facebook. Keep It Running, heating and cooling. You're going to be needing them. It's going to be getting colder here. And winter time is up on us. Christmas time is upon us. Ed Raymer for the Edwin Lee Raymer Show. Aaron's with us. Jackson's on the board. Back with you right after this. Hello, everyone. It's Ed with Private Investigations in Middle Tennessee. If you just need someone checked out on a background check, tag number run, or if you need someone full-fledged follow, give us a call. You can reach me at 615-390-7219. That's 615-390-7219. Or check out our website at piofmt.com. That's piofmt.com.
I felt so alone, scared, angry, full of self-pity. I just wanted to die, so I took another drink. Then I heard about AA and went to my first meeting. The people there talked about those same feelings. I was no longer alone. They gave me help to stop drinking and hope to start living. Alcoholics Anonymous, it works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or aa.org.
Hey, this is Ed, everybody. I want to tell you about a sponsor of ours. We've got Complete Yard Care. Their slogan is, we do it all. Low maintenance landscape design, retaining walls, tree removal, stump grinding, lawns cut, mulching, landscaping. Now you can reach them at 615-785-0384. Or you can look them up on the web at CompleteYardCareTN.com. They have a 5-star ranking on Google. That's Complete Yard Care. We do it all. Go to J. Mullins Jewelers and check out their collection of reactor watches. They're located at 352 West Northfield Boulevard right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And also custom-made jewelry. If you want it, they can make it for you. Also gifts for any and all occasions. Weddings, graduations, family reunions, anniversaries, all of it. That's J. Mullins Jewelers, 352 West Northfield Boulevard right here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. All right, and we are back. Thank you, Jackson, on the board. And thanks to all of our sponsors. Thank you to Jay Mullins, to Keep It Running, Heating and Cooling, to Complete Yard Care. Thank you all. Appreciate you so much. Aaron, you looking for a big week down here? You're gonna. This is something you really got to chip away at, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes sustained effort, to get it going. It takes a while to get filed in the state to get the buzz going. We've had a ton of media in the last month or so about this issue. So
right.
It's been very helpful to have that, really in the national conversation. So it really helps getting it down locally here. Yeah.
Now you're going to be on Channel 5, I believe you said, one of the news networks.
Yeah, December 20th, News Channel 5, CBS affiliate here in Nashville area. It's going to have us on open line, I think 7 to 8 p.m. Central on the 20th. So you can check myself and Senator Richard Briggs on that show talking about this resolution about term limits. So.
Right. So you got a senator that's actually going to put his neck out there on a chop block.
That's right. Oh yeah, he's all about it. He speaks my language on this. It's really great to see.
Okay.
So,
yeah, it has that's bound to be refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Now you cover 11 states, right?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
How in the world do you do that? How do you keep up with what's going on?
Well, not all at once. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We have to divide up the whole country. We're trying to get this done. We're working in a couple dozen states at a time, and so we have different regions. And myself and some colleagues oversee those regions, and we have others that assist out in the field and making phone calls to candidates when they're running to sign a pledge of support, all that kind of stuff. So we're busy all the time, and my region extends from West Virginia, where we passed a couple years ago, all the way down to Arkansas and up to North Dakota, and it's called the Central Region. So
okay, sure.
Really, broad conception of what the Central means.
Sure.
So I cover some miles, that's for sure. Yeah.
You get a lot of frequent flyer miles, I guess, don't you?
I used to drive. I lived in Kentucky up until recently, and in London, so I used to drive everywhere. I used to prefer that.
Because Kentucky and Tennessee are kind of centrally located to a vast area of the population.
Yep.
And that's one thing that made Nashville so successful.
Sure.
And we've got a lot of people that are here, and we're getting the overflow from that now here in Rutherford County.
Yeah.
And this population is supposed to double in the next 10 years.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. And, and it's got its problems. We're having tax increases and all that. I would imagine after that, we may have some politicians have some problems here locally. I'll keep you posted and let you know what's going on here. When you go so long, and we all know the game, and I've seen it here, and we know how this is played. There'll be no tax increase under this administration. Well, bully for you. That's just great. But we all now you don't live here. But it costs money. You rode in here tonight on a road. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you passed some stoplights. I'm sure all this infrastructure costs money, and it takes. And when you're expanding like we are, I've said this before. And a lot of politicians, I don't think they understand this. You have to hire people that know what they're doing. And I've used this analogy before, the old days. Aaron, get your tractor and that blade. Let's take this field and cut it and burrow down there, and we're going to build some houses. Those days are long gone.
Sure.
You've got to have engineering workups, perk tests, perk results. If you're going to use septic system, are you going to be on city sewer? Where's your water coming from? All of this. And I'll tell you, it drives some of these people nuts because they are busy. They really are. The people that are actually doing the work at the water company, at the electric company. When, I had a couple of guys here with the water company once. Water's no big deal till you wake up one morning and turn it on and you ain't got any. Mm-hmm. And a lot of politicians don't seem to think about this type of stuff.
Right.
This is part of, but we had a big increase because they hadn't had an increase in 20 years, Yep. Well, sooner or later, hey, how about 0.5% here? And people will pay the money if you tell. And if you'd have had over that 20 years an 8 or 9% increase, you wouldn't need all that. Probably you might need a bump of 2 or 3%, but you wouldn't have had to have 16%. But they don't look at it that way, you know. Be no tax increase if not administrative. Okay. So, how do you folks feel about this? Do they? I'm sure they support you 100%. Your parents?
Oh yeah. They have a term limit sign out on their front doorstep, or they did until it broke recently. So
right,
get them another one. Yeah, they're in support of this. It's kind of fun. I Thanksgiving was just a month ago, and or less than a month ago, and in today's world, I mean, families are really divided in terms of political ideology.
Oh yeah,
and my family is too. It's very diverse in that way, and I always kind of joke. If things start to get a little bit edgy at the dinner table for Thanksgiving, just bring up term limits and everyone will agree, getting along again, because you have a common enemy, right? Everyone hates Congress, so
yeah. I mean, that's what I've said before.
Great unifier.
Anyone is the president. Look at this presidential ratings. Wait just a minute, there, Senator, or wait just a minute, there, Congress. Let's see what you're waiting. What, like 12? Yeah. And the president's like around 35, 40, 45. Whoever that person is, I don't think I'd point the dirty end of the stick at the head, the executive in the Oval Office just yet. I want to turn around and look at yourself, because they've had a low approval rating for years, Aaron.
Yeah,
I mean, true. But like I said, to get back to where we were when we started, when I looked that up when Nick was going to be on with me, Nick Tombolides, people had been there, and like I said, I was in my late 50s at that time. Got to know Nick. And people had been in Congress longer than I'd been born. Mm-hmm. And I won't even start you because you're younger than I am. I mean,
yeah, I'm 41.
I mean, great day, man.
Yeah. Well,
it's a lifelong career.
I left, Kentucky most recently. Mitch McConnell. Now I'm in Vermont, and
right,
of course,
totally different world.
And I'm not even thinking about Bernie. Bernie.
And you didn't even bring me any you didn't even bring me any maple syrup either.
Yeah, I didn't. I should have brought some. I get asked that a lot when I come down south. I do. I just stock up in my bag and have it ready. Yeah. But Patrick Leahy. I mean, he was there.
Right.
I was kind of looking at him like, wow, he came into office before he stopped last year.
I know.
Since 1973.
I know.
I mean, it's like I was doing the calculation. I mean, my mom was in middle school. My mom couldn't even vote yet, and he was already there. What in the heck? Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't care who you are, what your party is. It doesn't matter. Like, just shouldn't be a career that way. It just should not be a career. It should be service.
Well, and a lot of the first year or two Congress people, a lot of people don't know this. It's not what it's cracked up to be. They're living together. Mm-hmm. They live in apartments, and as I understand, there may be 3 or 4 that rent a place together. Kind of like on a college campus.
Sure.
And not everybody owns the big sprawling mansion up there.
Right.
I'm sure a few of the senators do, and maybe some of the people that are in House Representatives do. They've been there long enough, but that money. If they've been there long enough, I guess they can afford that, And I'm sure you could tell me a lot of stories about that, where their funding comes from,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they're there, and the lobbyists, it's really probably the most absurd objection to term limits that you'll hear sometimes.
Right.
Is that, well, lobbyists will run the show then. Like, have you looked recently? They run the show now.
They've been running for a while.
That's silly. And just logically, they would lobby for term limits if they really benefited from it themselves, right? But they don't. They actually uniformly oppose term limits. And the reason is because they want those long-term, cozy relationships that they know the good old boy from way back. They know him for decades. They've gone golfing together, and they know each other's families. That's the kind of relationship that they want to hold and keep. They don't want to keep starting over. They don't want to work harder.
And if mom or dad retire, here comes Junior or Sissy. Right. They might take the job.
Right.
So look at the Kennedys, name recognition. You know. So Anyway, we're going to have to get out of here. How can people help? How can they get hold of you?
Yeah, a couple of things. You can sign up at termlimits.com. I know it's a very inventive website name, so that you can remember that. Termlimits.com, and you can sign our petition. That'll get you looped in with all our emails. You'll get updated on action, what's happening during the legislative session.
Right.
And you can call up your state senator, not your U.S. senator, and ask them to vote yes on House Joint Resolution 5 when it comes up in January.
Okay. All right. Aaron, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for what you do. We appreciate it.
This is so much fun. I appreciate it.
Please stay in touch with us. Ed Raymer will be back here next week, do our last show of the year. Until then, I'll catch you down the road. Good night.